Hi. Welcome to Spirit Soul Sense Information for Your Soul. I am Dr. Sharice, and I am here with Marcus of Gentleman Style Podcast. And I'm really happy and excited to have him on because this is Man Month. So, welcome to everyone who's been here before, or welcome if you're coming back for the first. Well, no, welcome if you're coming for the first time, and welcome back if you've been here before. I think we're gonna have a great conversation. I am calling this Man Month because I'm focused on content for men, specifically Black men, because I love y'all so much. I just love y'all so much. And since this is Father's Day, I really thought who better to have than Marcus, because we had a great conversation on his channel. If you missed the interview that I did with Marcus, I'll leave a link below. I didn't prepare the link right now, so I will leave the link when we're done. But I just wanted to go over some information about Marcus so you all know who I have here today. So I'm going to read his bio. So Marcus considers himself to be a serial entrepreneur with a multitude of businesses, okay, that he invests time, energy, and heart into, hailing all the way from the Caribbean, a small island called Saint Croix. That's where we're both from. He served 8 years in the U.S. Navy, where he honed and sharpened skills at a young age while growing into manhood, which is the topic for today. He's a CEO of a real estate investment firm and property management company based in Virginia. He started an investment firm that seeks to achieve higher returns for its investors, board members, and market partners through traditional markets and alternative markets, foreign and domestic. Now, if you know anything about that, fantastic. I don't know nothing about that. So fantastic. He's located primarily in the 757 area and it's growing. And he currently manages $330,000 in assets. Whew. He's also the podcast host. It's so much. But congratulations on all the hard work, right? Because I know to reach a certain level of success, it takes hard work. But let me finish. He's on Gentleman Style Podcast, a show dedicated to uplifting encouragement of our men and women across the globe, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. So whether you're into passive income, opportunities, trending topics, and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, his podcast has something for everyone. So welcome, Marcus. Yay! Sound effects, yay!
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here with you. I'm
Oh,
excited.
thank you. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very good. I'm feeling very good, very nourished. I
Okay.
got a lot of sleep despite everything I'm doing.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to be here.
yeah. How busy are you?
Hmm. Very,
Very.
very busy.
When do
Super.
you go to sleep?
I don't. I don't.
Excuse me.
I
Excuse me.
don't. It's hard,
You say
right?
you just got good sleep. So what was that then?
So I had to intentionally block out my calendar
Okay. For
or else
sleep?
for sleep. So I had to be very, very intent. I have to be very intentional with my sleep. I have to block times that this is dedicated for me to sleep. I'm not answering the phone. My phone goes off all the time. It's ringing. People are calling me. People are emailing me. Not checking any email. Not going on social media. I had to block out sleep. So
So how many hours did you sleep last night?
I got 10.
Okay. Okay. And so that's the anomaly.
That is an anomaly, but
Wow.
it's necessary
It's necessary.
in
So
this
how
growing phase.
okay, yeah. I'm definitely I'm not pro hustle culture. However, I know that if you want to achieve great things, it takes a certain level of sacrifice. And so even like when I was getting my doctorate, there was a period of no sleep, right? I was working until 2 and 3 in the morning to get things done because I had goals. I had goals. Yeah. Now we try to do as little as possible. Because I feel like my growing period, like that foundation, has really been set already. But
And that's real, right? Until the
yeah,
next thing, right?
until the next thing, right? Because last year I had like a 2 month period of I was doing a lot, right? I was doing a lot. I was building websites, and I never built no website before. I was just doing a lot of things. Yeah.
That's
But
a lot.
anyway. Okay, so my first question. This is a conversation, right? This is a conversation, but I do have questions. I mean, I do have questions. Okay, what was it like for you moving to the States, coming from an island? And then I can tell you what it was like for me.
No, it was, yeah, that experience was, it was exciting, but it was also
Mhm.
scary. Going from our island where you mentioned earlier where we grew up to
Yeah,
moving to the continental United States was very it was very scary,
yeah.
right? Being that far away from home, being a young man. Um and I had to learn, I had to adapt fairly quickly. But I did, and I
Mhm.
think that's one of the key things my parents knew about me. Because later on, a couple years later, my parents came and they stayed with me and they visited to check up on me,
Mhm.
and they said to me, one of the happiest moments of my life is my father said, you know, you were the one child I really didn't have to worry about.
Oh wow.
um you know, and you hear about that all the time with moms and their child going out into the world for the first time or driving their first car, and like,
Yeah.
I was so terrified, right? The thought of your baby
Yeah.
driving an automobile that could potentially hurt him or worse. And I think what we don't do is we don't do the prep work. My parents were very intentional with the prep work, giving me things, teaching me things, talking about money, showing me about money,
Mhm.
talking to me about life lessons. And I
Yeah.
think that made the transition easier, knowing that they had equipped me with everything they knew in their best,
Yeah.
right? And so they didn't have any fear when I stepped out into the world that I would do well.
Did you have fear?
All the time,
All the time.
every day. Every day I was very cautious, I was very
Yeah.
nervous, and I was very inquisitive. I asked a lot of questions before I made one step, one
Yeah.
move.
How old were
Um
you when you moved?
I'm 34. You When I moved out,
Yeah.
I was 18.
Okay.
I had just graduated high school, and I was literally in my prom tux. I was still in my prom tux, and I was recovering from last night's prom. I was in my room. My dad busted through my room, and he said, "Hey, what are we doing? What's the plan? College, military? What are we
Oh,
doing?" So I had literally no grace period where I could like sit and
yeah.
debate or linger on what I was going to do in my life. He was very proactive in making sure that there was a plan
Hmm.
after high school.
Did you? I mean, prior to that conversation, when he busted into your room, did you think about what you wanted to do after high school?
I did. I did. I was very proactive in going to the military only because
Gotcha.
so many of my classmates had a mass student loan debt. They
Yeah.
had went to school, and my peers were going to school, and they were telling me, yeah, I just signed, you know, a student loan for 40,000, 30,000, and that just didn't appeal to me. And
Yeah.
I had much older friends and family members who had gone to college still paying on their student loan debt. So the appeal at the time when I went to the military was right after 9/11.
Hmm.
And so the appeal of, hey, we'll give you college money
Yeah.
was exciting to me, that I can go to school and not go into debt, and I can attain a career at the same time. And so I knew that, but my father was just is like, what, are you with the recruiter? Are you talking to the recruiter? Let's go. I mean, yeah, he was very proactive. But
Yeah.
I knew beforehand. The conversations did happen beforehand.
Yeah. I think when I spoke with you, I said, well, I knew since I was 16 exactly what I wanted to do.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's just, yeah, it's been the goal. So I feel like I've always had a plan, but the plan I realized stopped at 30. I didn't really think past what 30 was. Didn't really think past it. So now I'm kind of just making it up as I go. I can do whatever I want. I can just do whatever I want. But I had a lot of culture shock. Even though I moved to Miami first, and I was 22 or 30, 23. Even though Miami is an extension of the Caribbean, it's a
Yes.
different set of Caribbean people, and then it's very segregated. Whereas, like in the Virgin Islands, I think it's the ethnic groups is a little bit more of a melting pot. It's not just all the Puerto Ricans in one place. They may have like high density someplace, but they are spread out everywhere else. Versus in America and Miami just being the extension of that, there was just so much segregation. And then going fast, 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 and so much people was a real culture shock to me. Did you experience the culture shock to wherever you moved?
I did. So my first duty station was Groton, Connecticut. After I graduated boot camp.
Okay.
So and then it was I had Meridian, Mississippi. That was a couple months, and then Groton, Connecticut. So that was a culture shock for me because you go from very southernly in Mississippi, and then you go straight to the north,
Yeah.
right, in Groton, Connecticut. And so that was huge. I was an introvert. I'm still an introvert by nature.
Yeah.
But I learned to adapt. The military, unfortunately or fortunately, doesn't give you the opportunity to kind of hide.
Mm,
So you either sink or swim. And
good
I
stuff.
had to learn how to adapt to people
Yeah.
and different nationalities and different beliefs, different cultures. I was in school, and one of the things that helped me while I was in school and in the military is just because something is taboo to you doesn't make it wrong.
Mm,
And I had to learn that. I had to learn that other people's beliefs are valuable, and you shouldn't negate someone's heart or what they feel because
mm,
it's real to them.
yeah.
And I had to learn that, especially traveling all over the world.
Yeah. That's a I think it's a hard, I don't want to say it's a hard skill. I think it's a challenge for most people to accept that other people have different values, and just because it's different doesn't mean it's worse or not as worthwhile as what they have going on. I think traveling does open people up to realizing people live very differently in different parts of the world, and they're happy. Right? They don't do things exactly the way you do it, they don't eat exactly what you eat, but they're happy. Um, yeah, and I just think it's sometimes easier for some people to get that versus not. But I think it's easier for people to just stay stuck in us versus them. And they're different, so then they're bad. And we have to conserve all our resources or something. That is a thing that has fascinated me since childhood, because I've always been very, very curious and asked a lot of questions. And even when people, like the adults around me, wouldn't, I paid attention to what they didn't talk about as well, and then sought that information for myself because listen, I want to know. I think it's interesting that people live differently, that people have their own interests and do life in a completely different way. Why would that threaten my sense of self? It's never threatened. I've never felt threatened by the fact that somebody's different than me. But I think that's exactly what people feel, sadly. Yeah.
It's
So
necessary. It's
yeah.
necessary. The boys and girls in Belize or Brazil or in Africa that are kicking a can and
Hmm.
playing kickball are having the time of their lives. Never mind the fact that they may not have running water today. Never mind that they may not eat 3 course meals a day. Never mind the fact that their house may or may not have power.
Yeah.
They're still enjoying a quality of life that some of us take for granted.
Well,
And I
most of
really I really want my future wife and my future family to experience other cultures
yeah.
so that you can realize that you are not it. You are not the focal point of the universe.
Right.
This world is bigger than you and I. And I need you to see that even though they don't have any of these things, they're still happy.
Right.
So the air conditioning that we take for granted,
Hmm.
they don't have it. And they're
Hmm.
still just as comfortable.
Yeah. I love a gratitude practice for sure.
Yes.
It helps. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it helps.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Love it.
So you moved to the America,
Hmm.
the people's America, as I call it, people's America. I'm I'm thinking. I feel like I had really, really great teachers, right, back home. People who taught from the textbook, but also gave their personal life experience, talked about what was omitted from textbooks. I think gave us history lessons that was pre-slavery. Or, everything wasn't just white people came and then, right? Everything wasn't that. It was, we had an understanding of what the natives were like, about there was progress before all that stuff. Okay, this is my background because I like talking about black topics too. Um,
Love it.
America, America. I call it the greatest nation in the world, right? I really do think there are things you can do here in America that's very, very, very difficult to do other places. However, the way that they handle race, I think, leaves much to be desired. And so that was one of the culture shock things for me, like the frequency with which people talked about Black versus white, and then the actual treatment of Black people in America. I think because of their history, it's unlike the racism in America is unlike anywhere else in the world, just because of the history, the way things are, and then America's refusal to admit that they're racist, right? That the system wasn't built for Black people to be successful, and so there's some inherent biases. We see in the news. Well, I don't watch the news. Recently I haven't even been reading the news, but I
Good.
know from the past, right? Who wants to be stressed out? There are a lot of negative stereotypes about Black people in general and Black men specifically. Uh, yeah, how I'm wondering what that experience was like for you. Like, were you always aware of it? Did you have an experience of like overt racism that was like, what? Are we in the twilight? And then like how did you respond to it? And then how do you be successful like regardless of what people think about you?
Right. Thank you. Great question. Great question. I think especially from the island that we come from, I think we are one of the most creative and resourceful people
Hmm.
I've ever met. And so did when I came to the United States and I experienced some of those stereotypes and those beliefs, those hardcore, you're on this side or this side. And I'm like, why is there a line? Why is there a line in the middle? When I experienced that, I worked harder to prove you wrong.
Hmm.
So one of the biggest stigmas I had to overcome was being in the military. I came in at the bottom, right? I didn't have any special skills or extra athleticism to me
Yeah.
to excel in advancement. But one of the benefits that I have is this. And
Hmm.
so the Navy, particularly, you most branches you excel off of merit or physical, your physical being, right? If
Hmm.
you're very physical and you're very athletic, you can excel. The Navy advances you off of a test. So I was a good test taker,
Yeah.
despite everything else. So one of the things I did to prove everyone wrong who had a stereotype of a belief system is I tend to work harder to show you that I can do whatever it is I set my mind to.
Hmm.
And I excelled and I moved up 5 ranks in less than 4 years. And that does not happen.
Gotcha.
That does not happen. But we do that all the time.
Yeah.
I had a friend who went to Monroe College, and I think it's in New York.
Hmm.
So she went to the high extreme. She went to New York, someplace that I would not at the time not dare to venture in
Yeah.
that state. She went to New
Yeah.
York, and she
Why?
because you're going to a completely big melting
It's
pot,
big.
huge melting pot where you're talking about the Jews live here. This is the Asian market down here. If there is ever a division, if there is
Yeah.
ever a line in the sand that's drawn, New York very proudly boasts it,
Hmm.
right? So she ventured to New York and she rocked the house. She did
Okay.
well, right? And so that's what we do as a people from our island, at least that I've seen, is we go somewhere and we thrive.
Hmm.
We're gonna prove you wrong. So I did what was innate to me, which was I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And then people had no choice but to respect me. Oprah Winfrey talks about whatever it is you do, demand be the best at what you do, whatever
Mhm.
it is. Get be so good that they cannot stagnate you. They can't stop you even if they try.
Hmm.
And so that's very prominent. It's something I did subconsciously, but when she said it, it was like, yeah, that's what I do. When I went into podcasting, I want to be the best
Mhm.
podcast. And so even before the following, even before the credibility of the show, I did the best darn podcast I could possibly. I spent the money even before I was getting paid for podcasting. just do it. Do what you do best and what you enjoy, and be the best at it that no one can deny you.
Yeah. I love the idea of being like the best, like best version of you, the best you can be. I'm thinking about I'm thinking about the different ways that Black people move
Mhm.
in America specifically, and like the messaging of being twice, you have to be twice as good to get what your counterpart has, which I think in a way is can be so stressful.
Yes.
You know, why do I have to work so hard? But I don't really think it's helpful to linger on that thought because in like life is not fair, and this is just one version of life not being fair, right? Because bad people or people who harm other people can be very successful and have a lot of money. It's not fair exactly, but it's sort of how the world works, and my perspective is you figure out how to get what it is that you want in life without harming people.
Yes.
And as a Black person wanting, I think, greatness, it does take an additional level of work. I think
It does.
because like even in the work that I do, I don't have a lot of experiences of racism, right? Maybe some microaggressions that weren't, right? I could probably count every time somebody has been like overtly racist to me. Um, but the microaggressions, they sting a little, and I know it's not something that somebody who doesn't look like me would have to go through, but at the same time, like wearing locks. I think I have a video about locks.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
I'm not, because I feel like there's a balance of do things in a certain way, right? So would having your hair a certain way open more doors? Maybe, depending on the doors that you want to go into. But I also say, because I control my reality and my world, do I want to enter a space that would reject me or judge me based on me having locks? And that answer is no. Like, I don't really want to associate with people who are so backwards minded, that I constantly have to be on guard and proving myself, right? I don't like the feeling of having to prove myself. Um, but I do, what you're saying about being the best resonates with me because it's definitely something I've done, right? Like, I'm a really good psychologist. Like, I am one of the best, right? I take my craft very seriously. It's just why I don't accept anybody who's found me on YouTube. Like, you have to find me in a clinical domain for me to see you because it's a very serious matter. So,
Yes.
uh, but yeah, I like that. Be the best.
Yes, and I'm so glad you said that. There are several men and women who, when they got into particular industries, experience the same thing. Right? It's like, oh, you want locks? We don't allow that here. So they complied
Right.
until they excelled,
Yeah.
and then they achieved certain pinnacles within the organization, and then they put in locks. And
Mm.
so because they're the best, it would hurt them to get rid of this employee. So now you
Huh.
have this person who's the best at what they do. You cannot deny them. They've proven themselves, even though they had to work hard. And now they're detesting your policy by
Mhm.
coming to work wearing dreads. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? You gonna get rid of me?
That's a good.
Even though, and it's you have to be that bold.
Those people are game changers.
They're game changers. But now, what do you see? The military has now opened. They're
Yeah,
allowing
I
it.
did see that.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to. It takes people. It takes people with the heart of Harriet Tubman to
Hmm.
make change,
Yeah.
and you have to be bold.
Hmm.
And so I'm glad that you brought up locks because that was the first thing that came to mind. But we need those people. We need people like
We
you
do.
to stand out so
Yeah.
that I can freely express myself in the workplace. COVID-19, although tragic, opened the door to remote positions.
Right. Right.
But we've always had the capability to work at home.
Right. They just didn't want to.
You didn't want to until you were forced to, and now you're like, now Google, now
Yeah.
Facebook is like, well, y'all just stay home. y'all are more productive at home.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think it's also hard for people because there are companies who are saying that you have to go back in person.
Yes,
We've seen that it can be done differently. So are you trying to lose your best employees?
some
Or
are.
yeah, like
and
guys,
and and I'll be the person to pick him up and say, "Hey, you, I see what he's doing. Come over here. You can
yeah,
work from home because you're the best at what you do."
yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Let me see. You did talk about your father, right? So so you grew up back home with your mom and dad in the home?
Yes, I grew up with my father and my stepmother. Yes.
Okay. Describe that for me. What was that like with your father?
That was the best example of manhood I could have ever experienced.
Okay.
There was a point where I lived I was shared between my biological mother and my biological father. And I would visit my mom on the weekends and I would stay with my dad during the week. And then there was a turning point in my life where I opted for my father full time.
Okay. How
Um,
old were you then?
I was probably 10, 11 years old
Okay.
when I finally said, I just want to be with dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was my example, and he was a hardworking man. Worked 3 jobs, 4 jobs, heart of gold. But he instilled things in me. He cared
Mm-hmm.
about my mind. He cared about um, being examples and putting good examples in front of me. And so being around him more. That's why I get my work ethic from. When
Mm-hmm.
you see your parent work so hard, you almost can't do anything less.
Mm-hmm.
Or you learn from it and you say, okay, I don't want to work that hard. How
Right.
do I prevent myself from working that hard? It's one or the other, but it's still a
Yeah.
positive either way.
Yeah.
Um, and so my father, that dynamic when he got married to my stepmom, I saw something in marriage that most miss.
Mm-hmm.
We went from living with his parents, which is my grandparents. We were living with his mom and dad, and then he got married to this incredible woman, and we went from living with them to getting a new car. Then we got some land. Then we built a house. Then we got a
Mm-hmm.
second car. Then
Yeah.
she got a car. Then I got a car for high school. And then we got a fourth car. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's what marriage does. Like
Yeah.
that's what wholesome marriage does. So that's what happens when you connect yourself with someone that is truly meant for you, right? And so when I saw that growing up, and I said, man, how did one woman change our complete trajectory? And it's because he married someone that was just amazing,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, smart, and just but it was she was perfect for him.
Yeah.
And so that's the man you see before you today.
Okay.
A hardworking, nurturing, God-fearing, loving man. But you have to see it. Oftentimes, kids say, and you hear it from unfortunately single parenting, was like, I'm teaching my kid, my child how to do this. And it's like they need the whole picture. It's one thing to tell you how to love,
Yeah.
but when you see it, it really lays something in you. It really invokes the emotion. And seeing love and hearing about love, it, it,
Mm-hmm.
it really it really affirmed me.
Hmm. I feel like that was so deep and so
Sorry.
beautiful.
Sorry.
I mean, I love deep. It makes me think about so many different things. But on my channel, I say relationships are for the evolution of your soul. And I think that men and women, well, when we're talking about heterosexual relationships, we come together and we can be better together. We're stronger together. We can accomplish more together. And so, relationships, marriage, I think is a really beautiful thing. I'm also starting to say, especially for people who are single and have kids and aren't or want a relationship but then aren't doing the things to get into a relationship, like you're saying, I think it's really helpful and beautiful for your child to see you fall in love and to see you be treated well by someone else. um, but the seeing it part, because there are so many, right? Single parenthood has skyrocketed. And so like I was talking to my mother yesterday. Well, I talk to her almost every other day. I talk to her all the time.
Good.
We're talking, and we're talking about parenting and parenting boys specifically because I have a son. He's 14, and I send him back home for the summer. So it's a child-free summer for me. Living
Hot
my
girl
best life.
summer. You got a hot girl summer going.
Yes. But we got on the topic of why does it seem so hard now? I don't know if it really is, but it's a thought I'm going to research. Seems so hard for single mothers to raise boys into men who would make good husbands. Uh, and I feel like it's a double-edged sword because it's not just that it's a single parent, but it's also that there's a lack of male influence, right? You can't have one without the other. And so it's like you say, seeing it, like you saw it on a regular basis and you saw what it really looked like, what the hard work really looked like. And I think so many boys are missing that vision, like they haven't seen it. I'm thinking they just haven't seen it. I'm one of those people who thinks that men raise boys to be men, and that they need that sort of influence in their life, because I don't think one person can do it all. And so even if it's not the biological father, I still think the influence of a man is very important, because boyhood to manhood is different for girlhood to womanhood. It's just there. Like the world just treats you all differently. I mean, the world treats women differently too, but I just feel like having somebody who went through it and then have become successful at adulting as a man, right, and is not destructive, is like a gift. I wish everybody had that.
It is a thing. And it's I want, that's why I push, that's why my show is called Gentleman Style Podcast. Although it's called Gentleman Style, it's not just for men.
Right.
I have a large male audience, but it's for men and women. And it's because we're missing the mark.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing the mark in creating a wholesome person. In order to create, you don't we didn't create this child alone, so we're
Right.
not designed to raise that child alone. And I'm not, and you this is not a knock towards the great hard work that single moms put in, day out, every
Right.
single day, trying to produce the best possible man, son, daughter possible. But there's a piece of him that you cannot give him.
Right.
There's a piece of him that he has to be thrusted into the arms of a man, so he can get that missing piece filled, that void filled.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest conflict for me, splitting homes, spending time with my mom on the weekend, spending time with my dad, because they were of two different minds. And so a really strange example is like one person is telling you to sit down to pee and the other person is telling you stand up to pee. That's a small thing, right? But that does something to a man psychologically. Well, which one am I? Right?
Yeah.
Which one is the right thing to do? And it's not a right or wrong, but this, only one of you looks like me. And so
Mm-hmm.
so there needs to be a branching off, and there needs to be that wholesome, even for moms, even if you're doing a great job in preparing that man, get him around some wholesome quality men. Get that young boy around some wholesome quality men. And I think just innate with me, that's why I gravitated to just wanting to stay with my father full time, because he was a good hardworking man and he
Yeah.
knew all other hardworking men. And it filled something in me to see that. It's like, okay, mom wanted to be very nurturing and protective, when dad was like, no, go on out, ride a bike, graze your knee, right? You know, go do whatever, go
Mm-hmm.
figure it out, right? When mom is more protective, no, I don't want you going outside, it's dark outside, it's kind of scary. Like, I walked to school. I walked home in the dark. My dad let me do that because he knew he was raising a man.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I needed. I needed to have that courageous father who was a praying father, but
Mm-hmm.
believed in me and believed that I am raising a son. There are men today that I see. Um, it was the craziest thing. I met a young man. He was like, yeah, I'm taking this young lady to prom. I'm courting her. I said, okay. Do you have your permit? Do you have your license? He's like, no, my mom's gonna chaperone us. It's like, what? No, no, you need your license if you're gonna court her properly,
Mm-hmm.
right? If this is supposed to be someone you're interested in, you need to go and go out there and kill it and drag it home. You need to go and get your permit. Tell your mom, I'm getting my permit. I already paid for the fee. I bought the book. I'm gonna be in my room studying. What? There's a young man I mentor right now, and he forgot his mom's birthday. His mom is heartbroken. I was heartbroken
Yeah.
when I found that out. And I was just having a conversation with him because I mentor him and we take him out. I take him out. But he didn't remember this, and he lives with his mom full time. He didn't know his mom's birthday. She never forgot his. I said there's
Well,
something wrong there, and he
how old
needed
is
to
he?
hear it from me. He's 14.
Oh,
So he's conscious, he's aware of birthdays and holidays and
yeah.
gifts. I said, is it not important to you?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, my mom's important to me. So why isn't it important to you to remember your mom's birthday? She remembers yours. And he cried ultimately. He was
Mm-hmm.
heartbroken. But I think he needed to hear it from me, at least. He heard it from his father, he heard it from his mom. I think it really sank in when I said it to him because he admires me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great to have multiple people. I don't consider myself to be a single mom because I know of the connotations that term has.
Yeah.
I think a unmarried mother fits me better because I really do have. There's more than one man that my son has access to emulate if he wanted to emulate. And I think it really does take a village, hence he's not here for 6 weeks, right? I don't know how many parents really have that option, but I think with the village that I have, like my tribe, I have a lot of options and I have a lot of support. But your point on it, I think men are important in being in the lives of boys to give them something to look up to so that they can say, oh, I like those traits, or that seems to get things done or get rewarded. Just like options, because there's so many different ways to be a man. I don't think it's just one way, or one way is the right way. And so yeah, so like have your pick of a wholesome person, wholesome man, who you can look up to and tell you things like, "How dare you forget your mom's birthday?"
Yeah.
And
I
it
mean,
sink in, right?
yeah. That's
Yeah,
what we do with education. You expose your children to as much as possible. I
yeah,
want you to go in sports. I want you to try out in band. I want you to try cheerleading. I want you to try all these different things to expose you. I don't expect you to excel in all of them. I don't think no parent expects their child to exceed in everything they do. I just want to expose you to as much as possible. And
right.
you decide, you pick what you want to gravitate to. And I'll help you flourish in that area, whatever I can do. If you're a musician, wow, I met a mom today. She didn't know her child could sing until
Woo.
until high school,
Oh,
but it's always been there.
yeah, yeah. I think because I work with kids in the system, right? And so I also recognize that some kids don't have parents, either mother or father, who care about their best interests. Um, and so it's harder. It's harder. By the time you reach like 17, 18, definitely once you're an adult, regardless of what you grew up in, it's going to be your responsibility to heal, right? We could be mad at parents all day, every day, but now you have to look for your own mentors.
Yeah.
You didn't have it. I'm really sorry. Like I really am. I think it really sucks when the people who brought you here into this world are not there. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's ever too late to then like reparent yourself. Like I think everything you're saying still applies. Like find a mentor. Like there's always gonna be somebody older than you who you can look up to and respect and then say, yeah, I want to be a man like that. Right? It could be a celebrity you're looking at, or it could be somebody in the community or a real life person that you know. I think there are ways. Yeah, because I know a lot of men who don't have their father. They don't have access to their fathers, and if they do have access to their fathers, like their fathers have a lot of issues, and then it's like they're the father with their father. um yeah, and so I think it can be really stressful. I'm just recognizing that people live very differently than how I think we grew up,
It is.
and it's tough.
It is.
Yeah.
We can't hold our parents accountable forever, right?
Right,
Despite your upbringing, despite what your parents, because our parents did, ultimately our parents gave to the capacity that they knew best.
right.
There's no entrepreneurs in my family, right?
Hmm.
My parents did the absolute best that they could with what they had access to at the
Right,
time. And so at some point, like you're saying, that man, that woman, that child, that person has to make the conscious decision within themselves to say, well, I'm going to seek out what I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I hope somebody's inspired by that, because yeah,
Because we
that,
can't we
yeah,
can't control anybody. You have to
right,
you can only control yourself. So you can't sit there and blame your parents. That's the same reason why brother siblings who grew up in the same community can grow in completely two different paths.
right.
It's your choice. It's
It
not
is
your
your
it's
choice.
not
Yeah.
your parents.
Not your parents. Yeah. It's nice when our parents set us up for success, right? And we can be really grateful for that. It sucks when they don't. However, yeah, I think on both our channels, it's like you can work hard enough, do things in a certain way, and you can get the outcomes you want. That's the message I try to push, because I think there's so much blaming other people for things that happen in your own life. Like I mean, I talk about toxic relationships a lot. I'm like, you are an active participant in it, honey. Okay.
You chose.
You
Yeah.
chose, that's what you chose. And when you can figure out why you chose that, I mean, I already know why you chose it, but if you can figure out for yourself and develop your own insight into why that was appealing to you, you were in the presence of somebody harmful, hurtful, negative, abusive, and you said, I want to get to know them better. That's what you said. Everything in you said, I want to get to know them better. Okay.
Mhm. Facts.
Healing, healing. Yeah. Is there anything you've had to heal from?
I have had to heal from huh. I've had to
That you
heal.
want to share with the people?
No, that's I'm trying to
Okay.
pick one out of the
Yeah.
laundry
The
list,
list.
the list of healing that I've done. I want to heal from I've made mistakes. One of them being um I didn't know better.
Hmm.
And I picked up some very bad habits from my mom
Okay.
that I had to learn and apologize for, that came to bite some people who
Gotcha.
are very important to me in my life. My brother, my brother's wife, his family, my
Hmm.
father, and I made some very bad decisions um, because of my upbringing. Developed some very bad habits that I had to heal from. I had to heal from um, just addictions. My father at a point in his life um had a drug and alcohol addiction, and we don't even realize how these things can just be within us. Because when I got to a really stressful point in my life, um I picked up the bottle. I picked up drinking, and without even recalling that this was something my father struggled with,
Hmm.
I went down the exact same path because
Hmm.
it was, I think because it was already in me, right? It was it was implanted in me just because of the habit and the nature of what was in him. And fortunately, I didn't have to go to AA meetings or anything like that. But it took me a while to really bounce back and say,
Yeah.
I don't want to drink like this anymore.
Right.
I don't want to be blackout drunk. Um, I had to heal from past relationships. That has been I've been with a narcissistic woman. I've been married before.
Okay.
Um, and now had to heal from that because it was very, very traumatic for me. It was very I learned a lot, even though we weren't married for several years. We weren't married for a number of years. I learned a lot in a short time we were married. The abusive nature and the manipulation and again, I had to take account for what I did, the part that I played, right?
Mm.
Because even if you can look at yourself and say, man, I didn't do anything wrong in this marriage. At the core of you, you said yes.
Right.
You said yes. At the very core of it, you opted to say, yes, I'll marry you. So even if you think you've done nothing wrong, the in the forefront, you acknowledged it. You accepted it. You let it in the front door. And that's what I had to do with myself. I said, what did I do wrong in this marriage?
Mm-hmm.
But it also helped me when I actually left and I actually ended the marriage. Um, there was no going back. You see couples that do that thing where they
Yes.
bounce back and they're like,
Average of 7 times.
go back to the toxicity. Like, man, let's make it work. Let's give it one more shot. Let's give it a 6th shot. 8 times a charm, right? No. When I left,
Yeah.
I was done because I
Yeah.
gave everything in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to heal from a number of different things
Mm.
over the course of my
Did
years.
something, I mean, yeah, what made you make that decision to leave?
To leave?
Yeah, like, yeah, why didn't you stay or work harder or try more or I don't know. Why'd you leave?
A great therapist and counselor like yourself
Oh,
said to me, Marcus, I want to say this to her. And she was very abrupt with me. She was very honest with me. She's like, Marcus, you've completed my course, you've completed my session. And she's like, I don't want to take any more of your money, but I want to tell you this. You need to file for divorce. She told me this. I was still wanting to work things out and continue the sessions and keep going. She was like, you need to file for divorce.
were y'all
And I
doing
said, why?
couples therapy or?
It was couples therapy, but
Okay,
I was the only one in attendance.
I see.
So
Your
she was like,
therapist told you to file for she was a therapist?
she was.
Wow.
She's like, Marcus, you're the only one that's been attending. I've called your wife, I've spoken to your wife, but you're the only one that comes.
And you listened to her? You like, I mean, not listen to her, but I didn't mean uh was it a wake-up call? I don't know. You were like, wait, or had you been thinking about divorce like seriously before that? Or was it like the first time you thought, no, I have to end it?
It was the first time that at the end of it, at the end of the sessions, she was like, Marcus, I don't want to keep taking your money.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to you long enough to see where this is going. And the couple of instances where she spoke to my wife over the phone, she never came in. She always talked over the phone,
Wow.
just to get an idea of who she was.
Yeah.
Right. Because you never, as I think as a therapist, you never take one side, right? You always want to hear the other party.
Yeah.
And so in the couple of instances she spoke to her, she was like, Marcus, you need divorce. You, to achieve everything that I'm teaching you and the tools I'm equipping you with. You've learned it, you've practiced it, but you're practicing it with a participant who isn't willing.
Right. Okay.
So, and that was the first time it clicked. I'm like, you're right. No one else is here. It's
Yeah.
only me.
Yeah.
And I'm paying for this. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I said to her, I was like, hey, I think we need divorce. And surprisingly, she was all in for it.
Wow.
So I think that's therapist was right. Her knowledge and her expertise it was right. It was spot on because she didn't put up a fight. She didn't. Oh, I'm already gone.
Wow.
Okay.
That does sound heartbreaking.
It was.
Yeah. That's. Oh, but look at you now.
Look at me now. That's a great song.
Yeah. Healing, successing, all the things. That's wow.
But I pulled away from it. I'm not the institution of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still a great thing because again, I grew up and I saw what a good quality marriage looks like.
Right.
So marriage isn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Who I married was, and
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it is. A lot of times we take our experiences and we say, oh, I'm not going to date this person or that person or anybody of this genre or flavor. You just married you just got in a relationship with the wrong person. Doesn't mean relationships are bad.
Okay.
Because if I continue that mindset, every person after them is going to experience that, and that's not fair to you. That's not fair to anybody else.
Right. I agree. I definitely agree. I have so many questions now. Wait, let me
Ah,
see.
great. Yes. Awesome. It was.
um, or how long ago was that?
That was around 2014, 2015,
Okay.
and we are in 2022.
I think dating is different now than then. Would
It
you
is.
say?
It is. It is.
Okay.
At its core, the core of it is still there though. We desire the same
We
things.
desire the same things. But so what would you say is different?
Our intentions,
Hmm.
what we're looking for isn't being communicated very well, right? If you desire, I tell any woman that I court, um, what do you want from me,
Hmm.
right? And be very plain. If your desire is to stay at home, then say that. It's not a bad thing. I think society puts these negatives and negative connotations into the atmosphere, and it's not true. That doesn't make, just because you want something that I may not be accustomed to, doesn't make it bad. Like we started off in the beginning, just because you
Yeah.
have this belief doesn't make it bad. Just doesn't. It's not what I'm used to. So I say
Yeah.
in the beginning, communicate what you want. If your desire is to, Marcus, I just want to stay at home, I want to frolic, I want to grow my plants,
Not sorry.
and I just want to travel, then
Yeah.
say that. And the person who's for you will be for you.
Right. Right.
But we're not doing that. We're putting on a mask, and we're putting on a veil, and we're hiding those desires, and we're hiding those intentions, and because we're scared, or we're worried, or what about what other people think. Share what
Right.
you want, because I'm very vocal about what I want and what I'm looking for in a relationship, and what the outcome should be in
Hmm.
this relationship. So say what you want. We're not doing that. Communication. We're not communicating well.
We're not, yeah, I would say too, yeah. I think people are talking past each other now. Uh, why is a whole different topic. What do you want now in a relationship? And I noticed you use the word courting versus dating. I don't think most people in America are courting. I think we're
Hmm.
still a lot in hookup culture, casual dating. Um, Yeah, right. So like, I feel like because we came from the island and people usually court in the island, we don't really date in the island. We usually court, right? This we're getting to know each other for a purpose is usually what like island dating is. Island dating is like. But yeah, so you're saying you court. When you're courting, what are you, what? Yeah, what does Marcus want in a woman?
When I'm courting, I share who I am, and one of the things I look for in a woman is someone who isn't okay with average, someone who desires more out of life, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
But someone who's comfortable and just stagnant, and just, I just want to live in this box, Marcus. I just like this box, and I don't want it to get bigger. I don't want it to
Yeah.
expand. I don't want to leave my comfort zone. I don't want to grow in any shape, way, or form. I just want to do this thing.
Yeah.
That I that doesn't, I can't get with that, because I am on a path and on a trajectory of growth and
Mm-hmm.
expansion. And so I need someone who has their own wants. We see it time and time again, where one partner gets absorbed into whatever the other partner is, but their goals and dreams they disappear. And
Yeah.
then years later, the potential is there for you to resent me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that.
Yeah.
So I need you to have your own desires and your passions and your wants out of life. And I say to you, help me help you get you there.
Yeah.
Right? Right? I'm gonna do my best, but I need your participation. I made
Hmm.
a post about that jokingly earlier today, but I need your participation. Help me get you there,
Yeah.
right? Because we can get there a lot faster. I forget the lady's name, but she just retired her husband, and Wendy Williams had a problem with it.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. She's vegan.
Yeah,
It begins with a T. Gosh, why should know her name? Because I like her too.
yeah.
Um,
But
I I mean, gosh, what is her name?
I I was trying to think of it before the show, because I had mentioned it, and but she retired her husband, and there's a couple.
Tabitha. Tabitha.
Yes, thank
Tab.
you.
Chance and Tabitha. I mean, okay. I thought it was interesting wording.
Mm.
I think people should run their relationships however they want to run their relationships. I want to ask you about 50-50 relationships, but also I talk about poly relationships on my channel, not because I'm poly, but it's something that I was exploring once upon a time, but because I know there are so many different ways to do relationships. And just because one person does it a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way, right? It's like I feel like relate long-term romantic partnerships, however y'all want to do the relationship, y'all do the relationship. Like that's whatever you want. I think you can get from another person. You just have to be with the right person, right? Like you say, be honest about what it is that you actually want, and you will attract the mate that has all those things necessary for you. So like if you don't want to be in a monogamous relationship, be upfront with people about I don't want monogamy. Just say that instead of lying to people and then cheating on them throughout the whole relationship. Like don't do that. And then like with 50-50 relationships, right? I'm not a 50-50 relationship type of person, right? I definitely reciprocate, but not in a way I think that reflects 50-50 relationship. But I don't think there's anything wrong with 50-50. Like however y'all want to break up roles and responsibilities and finances, it's really none of my business how you all do it. I think in the age of social media where people are so open with their lives and they start telling us things that we don't really need to know. Did I need to know that she's retiring her husband? Did I? But I mean, she has lifestyle content. So when your life is the content, that's the kind of information that you'll share. Was that inspiring to me personally? No, no, but I get it. But I get it, and I don't think it's anything for me to look down on because this is the way that they have made their long term relationship work. Because on the outside, it looks really healthy. It looks like there are a lot of green flags, right? We never know what's happening really in people's relationships, but it looks like there are a lot of green flags to their relationship. There has been like this sacrifice, this giving, this dedication. Like we're committed to this, like over the long haul. I think that's beautiful. So like, however people decide to do it, do it. How does Marcus do it?
Marcus does it with reciprocity, right? Like you said, we want the same things, and whatever shape or form that looks like, it requires two people to do it.
Right.
And so what I want is I want reciprocity. Um, I'm gonna ask you. You're gonna share with me how what serves you best,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you desire a man who can cook, am I open to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you if I desire a woman that to stay at home, um, then I'm gonna let that be known. I desire I, my desires are simple. I desire
Are they?
simplicity. They are. They're very simple. Like prime example. Like I don't care who
Yeah.
cooks. I don't have traditional gender roles in my relationships. I don't look for that because
Mm-hmm.
that to me, those were based off of a time, of an era of period of time that are no longer relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff it was applicable back then
Yeah.
because a movie ticket cost 25 cents. um that's not the case anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and so some things aren't relevant anymore. So I desire to serve and be served in my love language, and whatever that looks like, I look for, am I willing to do that? Am I
Mm-hmm.
willing to put that up? My wife doesn't have to cook, my girlfriend doesn't have to cook. If she does it, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it's not on her to be the chef in the family. If she doesn't want to cook, okay, babe, I got us. I'm gonna learn a couple recipes. We're gonna go out tonight. I tell any woman that sits there and says, I want a man who can get under the hood of a car. I can do small maintenance, but I'm the guy. I'm gonna tell you right up front, I'm the guy that pays for stuff.
Right.
I'm that man. So if you desire a husband who's a tinkerer, that I'm not it.
Mm.
I'm not it, but I'm the man that'll pay for your toilet to get fixed. And that's just honest. But that's
Which
why
I
I
think
work.
is fair. I think that's
That's
what I
fair.
think money gives us access to those things. I'm definitely I like gender roles. Definitely like I like gender roles. And when I get married, I'm not touching my car unless I'm just driving it. I'm not doing nothing.
Right.
I don't care whether he does it himself or he pays for it to get done. There's just certain things I just don't want to do. I just don't want to do. when I'm in a relationship. And so I feel like we all have these different things on our lists, right? That
Right.
works for us, that we want. Some malleable, like you're like, she don't have to cook. I'm like, I would love to cook all the time, right? I would love to take care of you in that particular, like very feminine way, right? Those kind of things. If you want me to pay half the bills, that's
Right.
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 Probably not going to happen. But I feel like the coming together of finances and us deciding what we want to do with it, like vacation money, investment money, that extra. But I'm definitely part of the group of women who's like, however you want our lifestyle to be is what it's going to be based on your income. And everything else we'll just like figure out. But it's, and I know, right? I just followed Tabitha's husband, Chant, was on a podcast, which I forget the name of the podcast now. And they're doing 50-50, and they're doing it in a way that looks like it works for them, right? Like their wives pay for at least half, if not more,
Mhm.
of their lifestyle.
Mhm.
And it looks like a model that is working for them, which I think is great. I think it's great to have these different examples of relationship, of marriage. It doesn't have to be one way. And what I want is what I want doesn't mean it's the best or the only way. There's a variety of different ways you can do your relationship. Just pick what you want, be honest with people, and go from there.
Right. And that's why I said it earlier. I said it in the beginning. And a woman that wants the if a woman doesn't desire to pay the bills, then that's what I always say. Help me get you there. Right? I'm an entrepreneur, so I have goals and I'm working towards certain things to a certain income level. But help me get you there. I
Right.
don't want my wife to pay all the bills or half of the bills. But I say to women, um, help if you want this, how is the household gonna get there? A man
Right.
should be able to lead to that direction. If he
Right.
loves you, we're gonna get you there, but help him get you there,
Yeah.
right? Some of us, not all of us, but some women are just like arms folded, kicking back.
I don't
He's
know.
suppo-
Who are
he's
these
supposed to pay all the
women?
bills. Well, what are you doing? He's trying to get there,
Yeah.
but he can't get there by himself. Help him get there. So now you can kick back and relax and
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
what you want and
I don't
be in that
know.
feminine energy.
Right. I don't know any of those women in real life. Every now and then I pop into different pockets of the internet to hear what
Yeah.
people are saying about relationship type stuff. Um, and I am aware that I talk about men in a way that a lot of people on YouTube are not talking about men. But I also think it's because of the type of woman that I am. So I heard a man say, a man who makes a lot of money. I heard him saying he could never be with a woman who just sits at home and does nothing. And in because of my perspective, my mother would say my perspective. I'm just like, what woman sits around and does nothing, right? I don't know those women in real life, and on a mental level, I know that those women exist, but it's hard for me to like envision that. It's just hard for me to see it. And then why would you even engage with a woman who's like that? I don't. I'm just like I get it, but I don't really get it. But it's that whole conversation of what do women bring to the table, which I think is a weird question to ask out
Bum,
loud
bum,
to a woman.
bum.
I think it's a super weird question to ask out loud to a woman, especially a woman like me. Only one guy has asked me that, but it was like on our first conversation, and it never went longer than the first
I
conversation.
bet.
I was like, what? What? That don't even make any sense. Like, so also with the understanding that the type of man who would be able to see value in me doesn't have to ask that question, right? Because he understands there are things I bring as a woman, allowing him to be his whole self, that will energize him, pump him up, give him ideas, like all that stuff. To think, would anybody ever think I would just sit at home and do nothing, even if my man was rich? Like,
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah.
come on.
And it takes time. It takes time to know you to get there.
Right. That's
To
true.
know that you won't do that. I think those men are jaded. They've experienced
Yeah. But I think being jaded is very easy with the way dating is now.
It is.
But it's like very transactional. It's not very cooperative. Is that true? Is it? I think, like you said, the intentions have changed, and so people aren't being honest, and
I agree.
then yeah, they leave just a trail of pain in their midst, I suppose. I mean, I've done a lot of dating in life. Yeah, I mean, I've been on lots of dates. I've been on lots of dates.
Player.
Not at all. She's not. Um, yeah, I think it takes effort not to be jaded, though.
Yeah.
I think it right because I still expect the best. Like I still expect honesty. I still expect people to be their whole selves, and I still expect emotional intimacy because it's what I've known. Right? I when I date seriously somebody, there's always emotional intimacy that's part of it, which I'm not sure people are used to.
They're not. Men aren't, at least. That
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, we lack it. Being in touch with your emotions is something that's something I experienced when I came to the continental United States as
Mhm.
well. Men just not being emotionally together.
Right.
They don't know
Not
how
being
to
emotionally together.
they
So
don't know how to express
do you
themselves
think
in a healthy way.
do you think men back home are emotionally intelligent?
The ones that grow in wholesome marriages, yes.
Okay. What
Um
percentage would you say is that back home in the virginity?
now back then back, back then I think it was higher than what it is
Than what it
um
is now?
than what it
I'm
is
not
now.
sure my father was very emotionally intelligent. I'm just thinking. Flowers are super important to me, right? One of the first memories I have of my father is him bringing home flowers to my mother and saying, "Here, I got you some bush.
Here's the backdrop, hence the
Here's
backdrop, y'all.
here's some bush." Because he knew she liked it. He knew she liked flowers, and so he did that for her. But I don't.
Oh,
Do you think they were emotionally into? I don't know. Right? I don't think I've ever seen my father cry.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't think the percentage is that high. And but I thought things were better now.
So so I didn't say it was high. I think it's
Oh,
higher. I think from what I saw, it was
in
there.
comparison. Okay, okay.
Yes.
I would say there are definitely less destructive men in the Caribbean than there are in America. Um, and yeah, and I just think because of the negative stereotypes and yeah, this society, I think it's just hard for people in general to be vulnerable, for black people to be vulnerable with other people, and then for black men to be vulnerable, right? It's just like levels to it that make it very very difficult. But yeah, I feel like therapy has become like really popular, talked about, and like men need to be in touch with their feminine side. Like I think a lot of men have that understanding that they need to be in touch with their feminine side to live a successful life.
Definitely.
You
Definitely.
agree? Yeah.
I agree. So I posted something that was very unpopular. So I do a charcoal face mask. And people were like,
Okay.
that's very feminine. What's wrong with it? I have skin. I have oily skin that I need to take care of. I have, you know, one of the things I didn't do in the military is I didn't get pedicures or manicures or anything like that.
Yeah.
And to a genre of men, that's very feminine. But
Got you.
for 8 years, I neglected my body. For 8 years, I neglected my feet, and this is very personal. But I developed ingrown toenails, and
Okay.
I had to have surgery to remove them because they had grown into my flesh.
Oh
And
wow.
so that's when I was like, why am I submitting myself to this stereotype that men don't take care of themselves?
Yeah.
Why
Why did you subject yourself to that stereotype?
I because it was the norm. It was like men don't get pedicures, men don't take care of your feet. Your feet hurt, you go lay up somewhere and you suck it up and you take some Motrin and you keep going. But
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, when I got out the military, when I went to the doctor, I said my feet are killing me, even while
Mm,
I'm sitting down. And the doctor's like, take your shoes off. And I took my shoes off, and my nails had grown into my skin.
wow.
for 8 years I neglected my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so self-care is now very, very important to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that can be deemed masculine. But I've always pushed against the grain. I was the first man on our island to work in an ice cream store. I was the
Really?
only man. Yeah, I was the only. I worked in Sunny Isles in an ice cream store in across the street from Foot Locker. I worked in an ice cream store, and all
Yeah.
the men, the owner hired me just because I was a man. She's like, "You're the only guy that's ever walked in here to apply. You got the job,"
Yeah.
and I got it. I was the only guy that worked in there, but it
Yeah.
was a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So I've
think,
always pushed against the grain.
which is fantastic. I think there are limited versions of manhood. I don't know if that's what I want to say, but why does being a man mean not taking care of your skin? That's weird.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
I'll
Why
say it.
does so men stupid? Men don't get facials? What is that? That don't even that's
No,
silly. Yeah, and I think it's is hygiene a feminine trait? I mean, wanting to look pretty is a feminine trait, but I think, and even if you want to look pretty, I mean, taking care of your body is like basic stuff. But I do think men are definitely trained to suck it up.
yeah,
Don't complain.
don't
Um,
complain. Deal with it.
yeah, don't don't show your feelings.
Oh, your teeth are jacked up. Okay.
Yeah,
No, brush them. Go to go to the dentist. Floss, please. Just
yeah.
floss.
Okay, so you get pedicures now. You give yourself charcoal facials and whatnot. What are some other ways that you do self care?
Pedicures, manicures. I I lotion my skin.
Oh goodness.
I just take care of myself.
Yeah.
I take care of myself. I don't let my body hair get outrageous. Because with body hair comes an odor, and if
Mm-hmm.
that's not the odor that you want, then right stuff gets
Indeed.
trapped in there. You sweat, you perspire. So I take care of myself. I spend more than the average man. I spend time in my bathroom, but that's important to me because for
Yeah.
my health, right? And so if you don't make it important, what you focus on is what you become. But what I don't want to happen is years from now, I develop all these crazy symptoms because I neglected my health in my early
Right.
years.
Right.
Health is wealth. You advocated for this. Health is
Yeah.
wealth. I
That's
don't want to
true.
have to spend all my millions trying to undo everything that I neglected for years when I can do that
Right.
now.
Right. And so you can enjoy your life later.
Yeah.
Do you
I
take
get
vacations?
I am starting to. The world is opening back up. I'm starting to take vacations, even mini vacations, right? Just
Mhm.
little getaways.
Okay.
Um, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Washington, D.C., North Carolina. People have been seeing me go to North Carolina a lot. I'm taking little mini vacations
Hmm.
because that's it's needed. It's necessary. And family. Family is becoming extremely important to me. So I need to make an earnest effort to see family.
Right. Yeah. I think family is everything for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's mental. People don't recognize your mental is a part of your health. When I my employer, I take time off and they're like, "Marcus, you're not sick." It's like it's up here. It doesn't have to be a physical sickness,
Right.
right? I need
Right.
a mental day. That's a real thing. And if I don't take it, you might not like who comes into that office.
Exactly.
So I'm
Okay.
calling out today. And people neglect it. They're like, oh, I haven't called out in over a year. That's not a good thing.
I agree. Yeah, I
It's not
agree.
it's not an achievement. That's not an
Being a
award.
workaholic is not a good thing. Like I definitely encourage people to have a life outside of work. Work is important, especially for men. I think being productive is part of masculine energy. And so it's a big part of like your identity. But there's more to you than just work.
Yeah.
Like you have a whole life and interests and hobbies and people you spend time with outside of coworkers. Like, come on now.
Facts.
Okay.
Facts. Hashtag.
Hashtag that. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about before I move into these God questions?
No, this is good.
No?
Man,
Okay. All right. So, what's my question? What's your definition of God?
my definition of God is the man who laid his life for me and created us, the man who is the example, is an example that we all should work towards and try to emulate. But he's also a realist, because there's a passage in the Bible that says he made we are made in his likeness. So if we are made in his likeness, that means we are spiritual beings with a physical body.
Mhm.
We are living a spiritual existence. And so we're living that. And so you should work hard to manifest the things that you would want to see in your life portrayed. Now, there's also a unique thing in the Bible that said, um, everything that's destined for you, everything that's going to happen in your life is already done.
Mhm.
It's already done. It's already going to happen, right? You just have to fulfill that and stay the course and live long enough to achieve what your life is projected to do. And so God is the manifestation of what I'm supposed to do on this earth. And he's already within me. He lives within me, and I need to do my part to make this world that he created better,
Yeah.
because that's why I'm here.
Okay. I like it. I say we're little G God, and God is big G God, because like
Yeah,
we're the wave in the ocean, right? I'm not the whole ocean, but I kind of am. I'm a wave in the whole ocean. Uh, I remember. Do you go to church?
I do.
I remember. I don't go to church, but I used to go to church a lot. My pastor, Pastor Benjamin, he preached on exactly what you were talking about. I thought it was a great example that really stuck with me, and now people call it manifestation. There's lots of different words for the thing, but it's like you say, what is for us already exists. You know,
Yeah.
it's already there. But he used an example of it being in heaven, and like just imagine like the mansion you want is already there, the car you want is already, like all the things you want are there, like they're sitting there for you. So you could die and go get it, or you could have them here.
Right.
You just have to make it a reality, like here. Like you have to align yourself with all those things so that you can have it here. You can enjoy it. You can have it now, you got it then. It's the,
Right.
in the land of milk and honey. I thought it was a great example for exactly what everyone is teaching now in like the prosperity teaching. It's like whatever you want, whatever you've prayed for has already been answered for you. And it's just about being patient, doing things in a certain way to get what it is that you want. I definitely believe that. Yeah, and these days I just think about what do I want? Because I can have anything I want.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
We can have the lives that we desire. We just
yeah.
have to stay in alignment with those things. That's why meditation is important, to stay and refocus, to stay
Hmm.
within alignment, to stay within. Does this thing help me towards what I'm destined to do, what I desire to do? And if it doesn't, the oftentimes the things that I fail at in life are those things that I usually didn't align with what I wanted anyway.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's the things that you succeed at is the
Yeah.
things that are gonna get you there.
Rejection is God's redirection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a definition for soul? Like we all have a soul. What do you think our soul is?
Our soul is our truest self in purest form, the form of us that abides without sin, that abides without external factors, right?
Hmm.
External um, influences, right? Our soul is our purest self, and that is our truest form. That's who we are. That's who you are. It's that soul sense, soul sense. Um, but that's our purest form of who we are. The
Yes.
physical being, this is subjected to um life's many influences,
Hmm.
and we are acting out that physical body in this physical plane. But our
Okay.
spirit, our soul, is who we really are. Who are you when the veil comes down, when the mask is removed? Who are you on the inside, right? That's how you have, and you said it earlier, right? The people with money, it's crazy. It's like, how does this person, why, if people knew Hitler's soul, they probably wouldn't have elected him and made him a dictatorship, right? But you
Yeah.
didn't know that because he was he was able to influence people to move in a direction that resulted in genocide for an
Hmm.
entire race of people.
Right.
There's a gentleman that Oprah interviewed. He was in a plane crash, and he survived the plane crash. And
Hmm.
so she asked him, "Do you feel that that was God's intervention?" He said, "No, it was not God's intervention. I think it was, again, it was planned out. My life is supposed to go this way." And so the reason why he survived, he said, "What did you see in those final moments before the plane crash?" And he said he saw, it looked like Dante's Inferno, where everyone was just catching on fire. They're in their seats, but he also saw a little white light above everyone's head. That light, and he's looking at these people really quickly, and he's seeing that some lights are brighter than others. Some lights are smaller, some lights are bigger, some are dim, some are really just very, very bright, and some are just tiny specks. And he said in that moment, it changed his life to realize that light is who we truly are. And the brightness of it is probably how aligned you are or how close you are to being your truest self.
Yeah.
And so that's what the soul is for me, is who you are and how bright it is. You wanna be
Mm.
as close and as possible to your truest self. Be consistently consistent to who you really are.
I think the hardest thing to be is yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it may come with some rejection, but that's okay.
Right. Right. Yeah. People definitely. I mean, I've definitely feared rejection once upon a time too. Okay. I like that. Last question. What do you think happens when we die?
What do I think happens when we die? I think we die, and I think nothing happens in the interim until the powers that be decide on what's next for you.
Okay.
If whatever you believe, whether it be Buddha, spirituality, God, Allah, whatever that be, the powers that be that created you and set you on this journey is going to decide on what's next. Where does he want you next? Just like you said, those we are a part of that bigger ocean, and energy is never lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's only transferred. It never disappears. So I think we don't disappear, we transfer into something else.
Something.
And that energy, wherever it's destined for you to be, wherever you can create the most impact, that's where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
I it's like homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
I think unfortunate as it is, homeless people are here for a purpose, and
Yeah.
in some cases they can be an inspiration, even if it means you looking at this person and saying, that is what I don't want for my life.
Mm-hmm.
Then that is a purpose, and that person has served a purpose even unbeknownst to them, because they may have influenced someone, some young man, some young girl, to say, wow, that looks extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go down that path. Mom and dad, what do I do to not go down that path? But that trigger was caused by that influence, that person. And so does am I saying that people are destined to be homeless? No, because we have free will and we have a
Mm-hmm.
choice. But you still serve the greater purpose outside
Yeah.
of yourself that's bigger.
I think Gary Zukov, I think it's Gary Zukov, talks about, I love Gary Zukov because if I was a white man born in 1920, 1940, I would have lived on the side of a mountain. I love to say that because I love Gary Zukov. I think he was explaining, I don't think he was talking about past lives. I believe in past lives, right? I'm an old soul. I came into this world knowing some things that take people a lifetime to learn. But that the person who met, doesn't have a home or is living on the side of the street or in a shelter or something, is probably a baby soul. Like we have no idea what they need, right? Everything that we go through in our lives is an opportunity for us to be better, right? Like I can think of like my worst relationship being the catalyst for like who I am now, helping to teach me so many things. I view homelessness or people who don't have a house in the same way. Like you are perceived as part of the lowest rung of society, but even there, you have an opportunity to learn things and you have free will. So I mean, some people don't get it in this lifetime. Some people do not create the lives they really want in this lifestyle, in this lifetime. But I think that's okay. I think, when the energy, when the body dies and the soul returns to its source, I think it's then transferred again into another opportunity to come here and try it again. And then maybe when they come, they have a home.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. That's my thinking.
Yeah. But it was a purpose. That was your purpose at that appointed time. And
Right.
then the next life, you're a queen, or you're a pharaoh, or you're a princess, or a goddess, or whatever that
Whatever.
next life is destined for you to do.
Yeah.
But it didn't end there. It wasn't the end.
Was there. I don't, yeah. I do think one day uh everyone on earth will be enlightened beings. I don't think that's going to happen for a very, very long time, like at least another 2,000 years. And then I think earth will die
Mhm.
or be transformed into something else. And then I don't know what happens after that.
Oh, we going to the moon. That's what we going.
Mars,
We're going to Mars,
another
according to
planet,
some.
interplat. Yeah, that's why I love Star Wars and stuff. I love like the reimagining of what things might be like in the future because I hardly doubt we're the only ones in the entire universe.
Mhm. But there's longevity there. Well, that's what's unique is the longevity of now. I mean, even for a while, we're looking into extending our lifetime,
Hmm.
right? People are looking into transferring the human consciousness into
Right.
another body, or heart transplant. Can I? Hey, for this easy payment of $10 million, you can buy this pumping heart that
Yeah.
functions just like a regular heart. And so, what does that do? Well, that opens the door to Pandora's box. Now you can extend your life even longer. So
That's crazy.
now you can, yeah, that's it's intense to think about,
I wouldn't
right?
do that.
It's intense to think about. It's like, what you're telling me that I could grow old if I want to, but now I have a choice to decide on whether I want to extend that life.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be huge. It's like, well, do you want to see what 2,000 years from now looks like?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to.
That's a lot of life to live. Just
That
a
is a
lot.
lot of life.
Okay. Well, let me. Is there anything you want the people to know? I guess I didn't update this. I thought I updated this. You all know Marcus's YouTube is Gentleman Style Podcast, right?
Yes.
I think he has very interesting content over there. So go look it up. uh,
Look for the big microphone.
look for the big microphone. Is there anything else you're working on that you want to share?
I'm always working on
You're always
something.
working.
I've now expanded into the CBD investor space.
Okay.
That's unique. But I want to say this. I want to say this. Don't give up. To those out in the audience, don't quit. Don't give up. You can do this. You can do this
Mhm.
life, and you can make it whatever you want it to be. Like COVID, recessions, pandemic, inflation, all these things are external to you. But you still can decide and make a conscious decision today to change things if you don't like what it looks like. But it requires you to become the thing that you want to see in the world. So become that. Be bold. Be brave enough to step out there and say, okay, I don't like this thing. I want to change it, because that's what it requires. You can't
Yeah.
sit. We can no longer sit idly by and say, "Well, eventually this thing will change." If someone said that, we'd probably be slaves, and to a degree, we still are. But the outward appearance of it is you have to be bold enough to change and become what you want to see. If you want to see a cure to cancer, then become it. Work towards it. Build it.
Work towards it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you all
Absolutely.
for listening or catching the replay. If you would like some more information from me, you can go to my website, spiritualsense.com. I've got some merch on there, and my poetry book is on there. If you would like to do spiritual life coaching with me, you can go to cannonierpsychologicalcenter.com to request a session with me. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, Marcus, for joining, giving the people this blessing, information, encouragement. I think it's going to be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Share this. Share this. People, please subscribe to my channel. Share this with somebody you think it can help, because I think this is really, really great information. And YouTube's algorithm has not picked me up yet, but we're working on it. We're getting there. Okay.
It will.
All right. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your evening.